Hi, it's Paul Jordan again. Stop. My phone is making a funny noise. Sorry about that. Hi, it's Paul Jordan. Welcome to the second part of my video on outsourcing about timescales. When you're specifying the work done, it's pretty clear that you need to know when it's going to be finished by. Now, because a lot of the contractors you'll be dealing with on the likes of Upwork, Fiverr, Guru and all the other kinds of places, you need to be very, very specific on the timescales. Don't just say Friday or Saturday. You need to say the work needs to be delivered by 1500 hours GMT. That's a very specific time, and it's a very specific time zone. There's no room for ambiguity or misunderstanding there, because people might otherwise interpret it as being in their own time zone. And if you're in a hurry for something urgent, you said I want it done by 3 o'clock, they might think they're 3 o'clock. And it might not coincide with your 3 o'clock. So be absolutely specific about the time, the day, and also the time zone that you're referring to, because then there's no room to manoeuvre, no wobble room, no ambiguity. As well as that timescale being crystal clear to you and to the contractor, it should also be very crystal clear to the outsourcing site, the likes of Fiverr or whatever. So in the unlikely event that you have a dispute with the contractor, your specification of work should be crystal clear, so there's no room for manoeuvre, as I was saying just now. But it also means that you're going to get the support of the outsourcing site, because you've clearly specified the time that something had to be delivered. The outsourcing site can see that and they can look at the delivery time. There's nowhere, they've got nowhere to go. The evidence is there to support you, so that's another good reason to be really crystal clear in your timescales for delivery. Now, the other thing I'd really recommend is to select collaboration tools that allow you to work with the contractor remotely, so that you can mark things up, you can add comments, you can provide feedback. Now, Google Drive provides lots of fantastic free tools like Google Sheets, Google Docs, and they actually have version control, so you can see who edited what. But I would also suggest that there's a really amazing product called ClickUp. Now, there is a free account, and ClickUp allows you to assign work to your outsourcer. It allows you to put comments on images, that kind of thing, and you can have a full audit trail of who said what, when it was said. You can keep track of comments, all that kind of stuff. So when you're working in a collaborative environment with outsourcers or other members of your team, then you need some kind of really good tool that will help you track comments, track versions, so that if you have multiple versions delivered, you can keep track of which is the right one, which is the wrong one, and have a complete audit history of what was being done. Now, if you're just doing occasional work, you probably don't need to go to that extreme, but if you're serious about running your online business, you're going to get images and work outsourced all the time. You're going to be doing this for years ahead, so it makes sense to have a really good system in place that you can coordinate all these things going forward. Now, as well as getting sort of things like graphics and videos and things like that done, you can also get help with doing administrative tasks. Now, an administrative task can be absolutely anything. They can actually be quite complex tasks. And one of the customers I worked with, he was looking for details of properties for sale, and we had to do quite an extensive sort of task list to explain what had to be done. The conclusion is that whatever the administrative task is that you want to outsource, be absolutely crystal clear that you can properly do that task and fulfill it yourself very accurately first. And when you do it yourself, write down all the steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, write down exactly what it is that you do. Also record what you do, do a screen share video so you can actually record the screen, show the menus that you access, the tabs that you access, which browser tabs you have open, all that kind of thing. Make sure you very, very thoroughly document your entire process. Not only will it make it a lot easier for you to train another person, but it also ensures that you thoroughly understand your process yourself. And it also means that as you go through staff in the future, you've immediately got a document there to retrain them on. Instead of having to start from scratch and spend all that time, they can look at a document, watch a training video. They're still going to have some questions for you, but it's going to streamline the whole exercise really efficiently. That means you don't have to spend the same amount of time training up new people all the time. And if you've got the kind of business that you want to scale up, and you've got particular processes that you want to multiply out by putting more people to do those processes, if it's well defined, well documented, and easy to understand, it's going to be so much easier to just pull on more staff and not have to spend hours and hours going through that tedious training program. But it also means things are going to be done consistently, because if you've written it all down, all your outsourcers, they're all going to follow those same steps. So all the deliverables should be done exactly to the same standard, in exactly the same way. There should be no variation. And consistency in business is really important. So that's something I really recommend that you do. Make sure that you can do the administrative process yourself, do it thoroughly, document each step very clearly, record the screen of what you're doing. I'd also suggest that you give that certain instructions to a colleague or a friend or someone who's not familiar with what you do, and get them to follow through it. Because if they can't understand it, what chance has someone else who's got, where English perhaps isn't their first language? So make sure you get it really, really clear first before you outsource it. Never outsource anything that's a problem. If it's a problem activity, it ain't going to get solved magically by someone else trying to do it for you. Now, the other thing I say in outsourcing is be prepared to kiss a few frogs. So what do I mean by kissing frogs? What I mean by kissing frogs is that you may have a disappointing experience with the first contractor that you give some work to, and it may be that you have a poor second experience, but it's part of the learning curve. There are an amazing set of people out there across the world who do incredible work for a very, very reasonable price. You do not always get what you pay for. I've had some extremely high quality work where it's been right first time, which is rare, but it has happened, for an extremely good price. I've also been ripped off in the past. I've paid a lot of money and I've had shocking results, shocking deliverable. Let's rewind the clock several years. When I was new to this and I was kind of quite naive, I've learned a hell of a lot since then. But be sure that you specify things really accurately and be prepared to work through some contractors. You will find a person that's really good at what they do, where you have a good rapport, the trust is there, they honour their commitments and they do quality work and they're passionate about what they do and they really care about what they do. These people are out there, but you may have to go through some people on the likes of Fire, Upwork and so forth before you find that you know that you can trust and that you would like to employ going forward in the future. So just be prepared to kiss a few frogs. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is templates, specifications of work, if you like. Depending on what nature of your business is, there may be things that you do again and again and again and again. And you can have a template for this where you have a blank document with all the placeholders and you just fill out the necessary bits and pieces every time. As you go forward, you should be refining your template again and again. Every time you might find another little point to add, something to change. So by the time you've gone through the process, let's say 10 or 12 times, you're going to have a really solid process that's really clearly defined, that takes everything into account. Excuse me. A really clearly defined process that takes everything into account, that you're refining continually. Process of continual improvement, very, very important. But once you've got a template, to do the next task next time, it's going to be so quick because you just fill out the fields, submit it, and you know the job's going to be done to the right specification and to the right standard. So as you move through your business, travelling forward, the repetitive tasks, have a template, refine it, make it better each time. Now, when you post work on these outsourcing sites, there are basically two approaches you can take. You can either have your specification of work, post it on the site, and invite people to bid, and then you'll get dozens and dozens of bids coming in. Some of the sites, they allow contractors to auto bid. So if you put a specification for a website, you'll just start to see the bids come in for ridiculously low prices. It'll be all over the place. You'll probably get inundated like flies to a honeypot. So I would suggest that's not the best approach. The other approach is that you don't actually post the job out there for people to bid on, but you can actually go through, use the filters on the site to find the people with the right skills and experience. Look at their profiles, look at their references, and pick the ones that you like the look of, and then invite them, those specific people, to come and bid on your work. And I would suggest that that's a much more efficient way of dealing with things, because when you post a job, I can guarantee you're going to get possibly dozens and dozens of applications, and you've got to sift through them all, look at the profiles. It's quite hard work. I took that approach in my naive days many years ago, but now I far prefer to look through the profiles, look through the reviews, maybe have a bit of chat interaction with that contractor, and then invite the ones that I like the look of to come and bid for the work and work that way. And it gets easier as you go on, as I say, because once you've identified contractors that you know and like and trust, you don't have to go through any of that process. You just contact them directly, say, here, I've got some work, give me a price, and away you go. Much easier. Now, the other key thing with when you're dealing with outsourcing, chances are you're going to have to share things with them, of course, the outsourcer. You may have to give them access to your WordPress website. Now, the way to do that is to not share your password and username, but inside WordPress, you can set them up as a separate user so they can log in with their own details. But you may have other websites such as Canva and so on, and depending on the subscription, you may have teams where you can add people and take them off. But there may also be things where you just need to share your login details. Now, we need to be very cautious about that, obviously, because you're sharing something that's very sensitive. But there's a fantastic tool called LastPass. Now, you should be using a password manager anyway to keep track of all your passwords on the different websites that you have for your banking, for Amazon, all of that kind of thing. I would suggest you should have that anyway as part of your busy life. But when you're sharing access to websites with your contractors, LastPass will enable you to do that very easily. LastPass will allow you to share login credentials, but it does so in such a way that doesn't actually expose what the password is unless you're happy to do that. Because what will happen is when the contractor logs into the website, LastPass will automatically populate the username and the password field with asterisks. The underlying password is not revealed, and that's how it works. So LastPass is another fantastic tool that you should be using in order to share credentials with your contractors so that they can access the systems you use and get the work done. So that's the end of the second video on outsourcing. I hope I've covered quite a few really important points there for you. I hope you got some value from it. Once again, it's Paul Jordan here. Look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks for your time. Bye now.